Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Meaningful Communication Show. I am your co-host, Chad Eaves, coming to you from Chicago, and my co-host, Michael Gansl, is in New York, and we have a guest this morning that Michael is going to introduce us to, and we're going to talk about wine as we begin to approach, actually, we're in the holiday season. So, Michael, introduce Sheila to the world.
So I am delighted to introduce, thank you, Chad, and I am delighted to introduce Sheila Donohue, who is a New Yorker and living in Italy. However, you, depending on the day of the week, you can find Sheila in New York. You might find her in Ventura, California, and you might even find her in Bologna, which is where she does live in Italy. Now, she's founder and CEO of VeroVino, and she curates small production wines and foods from around the world and brings them directly to businesses and consumers in the United States. So now, interesting, because after leaving the fintech world, where she worked for many years, I'm not going to tell you how long, but it was a long time, she became a sommelier. And then we're going to ask her how she did that, going from that to there. And she got to know hundreds of small producers while she was a sommelier, with great tasting tasting great authentic products, but mostly unknown around the United States. And she decided to spread the love by bringing those hidden gems from anywhere in the world direct to people who want to explore and experience more out of wine, food, and life. Her goal with VeroVino is to sell to everyone in the United States who values authenticity and seeks hidden gems from small, sustainable food and wine producers that are hard to find, and that's what she's doing. So welcome, Sheila.
And Thank you, Michael.
So what we normally do is we ask you, so like, what got you involved in this? Where did you start? Why wine? Why VeroVino? Like, why sommelier? Like, how did you go from fintech? All those kinds of things. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I would not have imagined that I'd be here, today, with my life, and as you described, in a career in wine and food. I'm a New Yorker. 100% Irish. I studied computer science and math in college, and really enjoyed my career in credit risk management. However, as as my career was moving on, it brought me from the New York area to Bologna, Italy, and I kind of tell people, like, my DNA kind of changed, living in Italy. And it was sort of the whole, like, experience of, places and people, wine and food. And I realized that I was, really passionate about, wine and food and the whole experience that surrounds it. And I found out that back in 2005-ish, that they gave courses in Italy on becoming a sommelier. So I thought I would, take the course, and it was like getting like a mini master's. And I became a certified sommelier, and in 2008, and that and I continued to work in banking and technology up until 2017, when I had a year sabbatical.
Wow, great. So again, I was going to ask you why Italian wines, but now it's pretty clear you were in Bologna, you were in Italy. So, well, what was it like? How was it difficult becoming? First of all, how well versed in Italian are you?
I'm fluent. I tell people I can curse and argue in Italian. So
Oh, you've got one up on my French skills. I can find my way to the airport and I won't starve, but that's about it. One thing that popped to my mind, Sheila, is your background in the technology space, transitioning into the wine and food space. I'm a previous IT professional. I was in IT for about 15 years. Before transitioning into communications and different types of coaching. And it seems like there's definitely a trend of those of us who worked in technology spaces. And then we get to a point in our career to where a lot of us kind of, okay, what else is out there? What do you think prompts that? Because I mean, it's not like one or two. It's interesting to see it's kind of a trend.
Yeah, so when I started to work as a programmer, right out of college, I wind up gravitating more towards the business analysis roles, and then I was asked to become a project manager, and I also became or sorry pursued an MBA myself, because I found out I'm like a big picture person. I want to know everything that's going on, and um and I think I think when you're in a job like a tech job, it's like your brain's always thinking, and it's not just thinking about the program you have to write or the project, but you're thinking about yourself, your surroundings, the present and the future.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So now you're in the fintech world. You're still working. You've become a sommelier, and now what? What made you take the next step? What was the next step? How did you come to the next step?
So it was a year of sabbatical whereby my life was a blank piece of paper, and both from a professional and a personal perspective. I was forced to reevaluate my life, and so during that year of sabbatical 2017, I gave myself a year to decide what I'm going to do with my life and my job, and so I put together kind of the criteria. I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to innovate, and innovate was something that I really enjoyed doing in my fintech career. I wanted to help small businesses, which even in my fintech career was often an area where I had expertise. And okay, and then from a personal perspective, I decided I didn't want to totally leave Italy, but I did want to come back to the US. And then, as I was kind of putting together this puzzle towards the end of that year's sabbatical. I kind of had to decide what I'm going to do, and I, let's say, didn't intentionally, but what I wound up doing was mapping out this model for Vero, and for my startup, and so I decided, hey, I did all this research. I may as well just go ahead and try, and start this business.
So you did this all on your own, or did you reach out to anyone in particular? Do you have, people who advised you? And, can you tell us a little bit more about how that actually happened?
Yeah, I definitely reached out to a lot of people. I had so at the time I was active with the a professional women's a European group of professional women that have a really great mentoring program, and so I had a mentor who was guiding me through this process. I had also started to come back frequently to New York that year, and then I found out about SCORE, and through the Small Business Association. So I started to get have some mentors through that program as well. And then because I just have a passion in wine, and had already, you know, dabbled, let's say, in the wine industry. Even when I worked in fintech, I was going to wine trade events as well in the States, and I started to get to know a lot of importers and other players in the wine industry. And so I was just trying to get as much feedback as possible from people to to formulate this idea. Like another influential person is this woman called Helen Gallo. She's also one of our ambassadors. That she has a lot of experience in wine importing and distribution. So someone like that, for example, helped me a lot as well in terms of digging down into the details in terms of how I can really go to market with this idea.
So during this progression, in your career and personally, you got the year in between, and then you're moving into the wine industry. What skills in like communication and business did you find helped you in that, or in what gaps did you discover? Like something that you weren't prepared for, or you didn't know that you had to pick up, to be successful in what you're doing today.
So ironically, the role I have now as business owner, wearing lots of hats, it turns out that I draw from a lot of my experience, from over 30 years, whether it's a project manager. I have my MBA, for example, so I was a financial analyst. I managed a $11 billion balance sheet at one point. In fact, I do the bookkeeping still for my company, and every so often I'll, like, even the accountant that I provide my financial information to, he's pretty impressed with what I do, and I'm just drawing on all of that, all that experience that I have. But also, in my career, I launched products, and then I put together the marketing function for my previous company, and then I became a sales rep with them as well. So basically, all of that experience, you pretty much filling in all the you know the the key roles in order to run a company. Um, the one thing that I probably, let's say, have, not that I missed, but the things that I noticed that I needed to improve on. Um, well, certainly one thing I never had, I was never an entrepreneur. So that, is something that um, I find myself just having to figure things out on my own. I normally would be part of a large or larger company with a team of people. I don't have, I have a team, but it's like a skeleton crew. So a lot of things I have to figure out on my own. And another thing that I really miss is being able to have someone next to me that I can run an idea by. Because I think when I talk.
Hmm.
So if I'm just like by myself all the time, I'm kind of missing an important, tool that I need in order to help think through an idea properly. So that is still something I kind of miss, honestly, in my, my current situation. And the other thing is really like hiring and firing people. Like the whole, like, I did have, I was a manager at various points in time in my career, but actually, like, just making the whole decision process, making sure that you're following the law in terms of,
Mm.
hiring, firing people, stuff like that. Like, I've had to learn, and I'm continuing to learn.
So do you have to take into account, like, I don't know where your staff, your businesses are located, like EU versus US? Like, is that an additional layer, of consideration that you have,
It,
with Italy?
yeah, I mean a little bit, but although we're a U.S. company,
Oh,
so everything 99% of what we do falls into the U.S.
oh.
Um, I mean, of course, uh, I have to in dealing with wine producers that are primarily from Italy, although they're also from other countries. But it require a certain amount of knowledge and sensibility about what they have to deal with. Like I'll have so we focus on small farmers that have never been in the U.S. before, and a number of our producers never exported ever.
Mm.
So so they ask me what do I need in order to export, and I'd be like, well, I'm not an expert in the Italian or European side, but I definitely find solutions for them. Actually, I one of our producers who has a good amount of experience in exporting, he's actually advised and provided suggestions to these other small producers, about what they need. So again, it's all about like trying to find a solution. And I must say, having lived and worked in Italy for 20 years, that's one of the things that I learned in Italy is I admire the Italians for just being having a lot of ingenuity and finding solutions when you have very little resources available to you.
So how do you choose? It's really fascinating listening to the story here. How do you find the wines? And I think you've branched out to olive oil and some other products. How have you done that? I mean, what are some of the criteria that you choose?
Yeah, so so a lot of the way that I meet producers is a bit random. Um, and the relationship with that producer is quite important. It's very important, in fact. And that's one of the things that I learned along the way. My initial idea was to have like an Amazon type of approach whereby you can just onboard people and companies really easily, but it's the total opposite. It's very hands-on. Um, and um, and then regarding criteria, we look for people that are farming their own land, that have the most sustainable approach to farming and making their wine. We prefer minimal to no intervention, and we look for producers that are really thinking about their land and their traditions, and and not focused on the target market. So like most wines that you find in America are made by companies with big marketing staffs that are thinking about their current customers, what their current customers are used to, the taste that they're used to, and the products. The wine is made for that target market. You can add up to 200 ingredients to wine and not disclose it on the label. So we're doing the complete opposite. We're focused on people that are just thinking about the place and traditions and authenticity. As soon as I kind of get the feeling that this producer is trying to profit from popularity or trend, for me, that a red flag goes off. We really look for people that are have really deep roots. And of course, we also look for we put priority on producers that are not yet in the U.S. And then of course, we taste their products. They have to taste good. And then we also look at pricing. The pricing needs to be just right. Sometimes we have to work with the producer as well, especially for those that are not used to exporting. We have to kind of uh, set set their minds to what it entails, even from our own perspective, as an importer. uh, like, all it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time in order to introduce and sell, let's say, new brands and products to America. So we want to make sure that producer is aware of the big investment that my company will have to do for them, and also for the fact that you're looking. It's a medium to long term project. If they're short term minded, then that's also another red flag.
And
So
how are
Sheila,
you? I'm
oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Chad.
so Sheila, I was going to ask you, so as far as a food or wine quality question, like you talked about the number of ingredients that you can pet in for being disclosed. I travel a fair bit to Europe. I lived over in the UK for 4 years. And I noticed, like, it's maybe I'm more sensitive to it now recently, is the quality of food when I go over to Europe, especially the continent. It seems like you can eat less amount, it'd be more satisfying and more filling, than like a comparable meal here. Or like there's even American companies, like what they sell here, they can't sell there. McDonald's, like, for example, their French fries, they can't sell them. At least last I checked into this. Is that any kind of a competitive advantage for you in some way, or is it just something it doesn't really impact the wine market per se? Kind of, what's your perspective on that, as far as because everybody I talk to that travels, that's one of the things they always say is like the food tastes different.
Right.
Um, Now, what's your
Yeah.
perspective on that? Does it help you out in any way?
Yeah. So it's definitely linked. The wine and food are like linked together in my mind. So my company, we're very active on our blog. We write our own articles that we publish about once a week. It's on verovino.com. Who's ever listening, I encourage you to sign up. And in September, we came out with an article on mindful drinking. And I collaborated with a woman who has many years of working with importers in America, and she switched her career to focus on wellness. And she offered to write an article on this topic for us. And actually, the article was really revealing. And she had brought to our attention in the article that in Europe, the European way of eating and drinking is to really appreciate the food and the wine that you're having, and to focus on just really good, high quality, wines and foods. And with that, the wine and the food have a better flavor. It's more interesting. And then typically the wine and the food is also centered around people and a meal or some sort of gathering. And frankly, you're often seated. You're not like in America. We have this thing where we walk around and eat and talk at the same time while we're on our feet. In Italy, in other places in Europe, you're typically just seated at a table, and that also helps you to really just appreciate what you're eating and drinking.
So, I was going to ask you, how many wines do you have in your portfolio, and how do you sell them?
So we have about a little less than 100 products of wine and olive oil. And when I had that year of sabbatical, I talked with a number of importers who discouraged me from starting the business and focusing on small producers because it is an economies of scale business. And so you need volume in order to make money. And so I thought, well, what if we could sell to anyone and everyone interested in these wild and scarce products all around the U.S. And that's what we do. We're an omni-channel business. We seek out distributors state by state. In certain states, we self-distribute, so we sell directly to wine stores and restaurants, and then we also sell to consumers and what we call corporates. So these are companies, typically large corporations, but they don't have to be large, that embrace our values as well and see that our wines and foods are great gifts for their clients. And we also do events as well for consumers and corporates.
Great, great. So, I was reading some of the stories about you, and I really was fascinated by you saying something about the 3 lessons that you wished people would have told you before you started your journey. So, would you mind telling our audience what those 3 wishes were, those 3 lessons?
Yeah. So so you actually reminded me earlier today in an email. So I'll be cheating a little bit because that was about I guess through almost 3 years ago when I put together that video. But one was embrace uncertainty, and that kind of reflects the transformation that I've had as personally and professionally. When I grew up, I was kind of I was brought up to try to basically get a full-time job and have security in terms of you know my my ability to have money, let's just say, and also job security as well. And so that I did a complete turnaround on in my life. And another is, if you believe in a product, you can sell it. So when my most early memories of selling was going in front of the supermarket in my town and selling Girl Scout cookies, and that I hated. um, I didn't really believe in, I wasn't that passionate about Girl Scout cookies apparently. But actually when I was working for my previous employer, selling credit risk management software, I was selling the products that I created. Like I moved from New York to Bologna because I knew there was an opportunity for a certain type of software in the market, and this company in Bologna had that vision as well. And so I worked for them for 15 years, and a good part of the good 13 years of those 15 was on developing and launching and growing that product. So when I was asked to become a salesperson, it was easy for me to sell because I was already convinced of the benefits of the software. And the same goes for the products that I curate for our company.
And then the third one?
Um, it is difficult and it can change your life. That's what you wrote me, but I forget exactly what I had said in that video. Let's just say that in deciding to focus on wine, it was a decision of mostly heart more so than head. And it has been I've encountered a lot of challenges. However, because uh, I I feel that my company is doing a service to the U.S. market by seeking out uh, products, wines, and foods that have never been in the U.S. And by the way, many of them have gotten these great awards and recognitions, like best of 2023 on these, lists by recognized, wine media companies in America. It's an affirmation that what we're doing is providing really, we're filling a need in the U.S. market that there wasn't there before, and so I feel that despite the fact that it is difficult still to try to grow and scale this company. I think that we're on the right path still, and that we're we're doing the right thing.
Cool.
Great.
So as we're getting to wrap up here, what would the discussion about wine be without asking you what your favorite wine movie is?
Wine movie.
Favorite
Oh,
movie? Oh, that's a hard question. I think the reason why is because ever since I started to work for wine in the wine industry, I when I have free time, I don't look at wine movies anymore. um, but I really enjoyed Sideways. That was I wouldn't say necessarily formative, but it did, even for the American wine industry, it was definitely a game changer for opening up
yeah.
the Central California wine market. And it just so happens right behind me is the 101 freeway, where at the beginning of the movie he's getting off of the Oxnard exit. I'm like, Oxnard. I'm like, that's right next to me. So it's just kind of come like full circle. So
Looking, if you're looking for a really interesting perspective on wine, there's a series on Hulu called Drops of God. And it's actually, I'll tell you, it's really spectacular. It's a very interesting perspective about wine. It's a interesting series. But so Chad asked you what was your favorite wine movie. So I guess Italian wine is your favorite wine then, huh?
so it's the one certainly that I'm most familiar with. And But I honestly, I'm not so crazy about the question about what's your favorite wine, because it changes all the time. It changes on the time of the year, what kind of situation I'm in. Like last night, I was at a natural wine bar in LA, and I interacted a bit with the bartender, kind of giving her some context. I'm not your sort of ordinary person that comes to a natural wine bar. I said, hint, hint, I should be selling to you guys. but um, but in any case, she initially suggested an orange wine that's from Sicily, that's made from a native grape, and I certainly, that was right up my alley. I really enjoyed it. And the second wine that she recommended was a red blend from the Loire Valley, and that I really enjoyed as well. So it's I just I definitely keep my mind open, because um, I mean, as you know, Michael, because I know you enjoy a lot of different types of wines, and you're a wine explorer yourself. So
Yes.
I love to. The thing I love the most is tasting a grape I never had before.
Yeah.
I get so excited about that, and it doesn't matter where the grape is from. I just prefer that it's made in the most sort of authentic way as possible, sort of a minimal intervention approach. So that way you can really taste the grape itself and of course the terroir.
I know we could go on, you and I specifically, we could talk a lot about wine and probably steered the conversation specifically that way, but I know we have a time limit, so we're just about to wrap up. But I wanted to thank you for this. And just in response, I love wine and I love the surprise of wine, which is what you just said earlier. And when people ask me what's my favorite wine, pretty much all wines. It's because it is such a reflection of life. It's of who you're with, where are you, what is it, what are your surroundings. So, and I'm delighted that VeroVino is doing well, and I encourage you to keep on keeping on in 2024. So I think that's just about wrapping up, right, Chad?
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing with wine, especially, is it's there's such a personal way that people can discover it and can figure out what they like, what they don't. I know for me, one of the big things that opened my eyes to the different types of wine was actually the Epcot Wine and Food Festival, and getting to try different ones. Or when I went to Canada and had ice wine the first time, that was like, there's like a dessert cold wine, yeah. And but it just kind of opened up all those things. So it's a really interesting. I'm much more of a junior wine explorer. I probably have like 40, 45 bottles. I know someone else that has more. But it's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Sheila, for joining us today. We'll put links in the show notes. Is there anything that you would like to share with people before we sign off today?
Just come to our website, verovino.com. As I mentioned, you should sign up for our newsletter. I know that people enjoy it very much. And thanks so much for this opportunity to share the story and story of my company.
Well, thank you, Sheila. I know I'll be signing up for it for sure.
Good.
I'm already signed up. So I want to wish everybody a happy holidays. This is the time of year. And thanks for everybody joining us. And glad you came and was with us this afternoon, Sheila. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.